Here we go, recording in three, two, and one. It's wife swap time!
Hey,
Welcome to episode 225 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 225. I'm Zig with your murdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Nerdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the up and down, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. It is wife swap time. We originally did this at episode 10, but we have done this every 25 or the 25 mark ever since. Oh, excuse me. Um, I I'll get into it in a minute, but yes, this is wife swap. I am on the nerdery side of the house this week. Zig is on the murdery side. The murdery side always stresses him out, which just tickles me silly. Um, because it doesn't stress me out. Well, sort of. Um, for our listeners, happy post Thanksgiving. This comes out the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so hopefully everybody had a good one. As we record this tomorrow evening, we are doing a special, our first author interview
hmm
with a special murdery only episode about Johnny Trevisani's book, The Serial Killer Travel Guide Across America, Your Coast to Coast Tour of Terror. I expect this to be a very fun time. Um, but again, though, as when this episode comes out, we have already recorded that. So go back and listen to it if you haven't. It'll be a special midweek drop. I'm very excited about it. I can't wait. I bought the book, have been reading it. It's very interesting. It's very funny. Um, really good stuff in it. I highly recommend the book if you're into true crime and especially serial killers. It's really cool. I had talked about doing a basically A to Z across America and hitting a serial killer from every state. And as far as I'm aware, he's done just that. I don't remember if he's got 50 serial killers in there or not, or if he's done every state. But it's really cool. It's really cool. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But go back and listen to it. Speaking of books, Prime Numbers should be out by now. You can find it on Amazon. Please do subscribe to my Facebook page for Prime Numbers, and you can also go to jeffreyhwright.com where you can order the book there as well. I'm very excited. As I talked about last week, as we're recording this, I expect the very first author's copy to be in my hands this week. It is currently in shipment. So awesome stuff. Like I said, I expect it's out by the time this episode is. So please go to Amazon, purchase your copy, and hopefully everybody enjoys. Zig is also working on his own book, which we will talk more about as he completes that. I've been reading along as he's been writing along with it. So very excited about that as well.
Yeah, currently it doesn't have a title other than the L4, which is probably just going to be the title of the series. Um, L4 Book One basically is the title at this point.
Yeah, I think he'll enjoy it. So I always look forward to when I get to take my turn at the nerdery and get a chance to geek out on something I'm passionate about, besides murder. Okay, wait, that sounds really bad. Anyway, this is one I've thought about doing for a long time. I just didn't know how I was going to cover this subject and not take 3 hours to do it. I was just talking to my friend Billy on this yesterday, telling him what I was going to be covering, and he's like, yeah, you could absolutely do 3 hours on that. And I could. And throughout time, I've looked at it and I'm like, how do I best want to do that? Because there is that much that could be talked about on this subject. Zig will tell you, and that I can and have had long, deep conversations on this subject. And outside of Star Wars, this may be the biggest subject I can nerd out about. Um,
And I
with
agree with him on most points.
yeah,
I'd say
with
95 to 99%. I agree wholeheartedly. I might put something a little higher or lower, but
well,
yeah, it's a good subject.
With that, I would like to present Peter Gabriel, specifically 4 albums and 2 concerts. You could go through his discography and literally, you could go through his discography, what he does outside of music, what he's done for music, and you could literally go for hours and hours and hours. Peter Gabriel's legacy and discography span decades.
Decades.
Um, and what he has meant to music.
Four albums we're
It
talking about right now span the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s.
correct, correct. Um, Me personally, because as I was writing my notes for this episode, not only did I listen to these four albums that I'm going to be talking about, but I listened to others of his music because I know his entire discography, and as I listened, I'm just like, I can't find a bad song. There may be songs that I don't think are as great as others. And we talk about this at one point in here. There's a particular album where the worst song on this album is still a phenomenal song.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, and so many groups can't say that. A big example I think about when you talk about something like that is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Phenomenal album. Phenomenal album. I think Money is not only the worst song on that album, I think it's a terrible song. Um,
The worst song they ever did.
I absolutely agree that's the worst song they ever did. Peter Gabriel is very different. The worst song on an album is still a phenomenal song.
In
Um,
one case, the worst song on the album is the biggest hit.
yes, well, no, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the exact one I'm talking about. So let's dive in because I do have a lot here. Peter Gabriel is a British singer, songwriter, and visionary artist who changed the landscape of progressive rock and alternative music forever. Peter Brian Gabriel was born on February 13th, 1950. Shares a birthday with my brother. In Chobham, Surrey, England. And
Chobham.
from Chobham,
Chobham.
Chobham. Okay, cool. We'll go with that. From a
I think
very
that's
young
right.
age, he was still drawn to music. He took piano lessons, he played drums, and eventually the flute, which would later become one of his trademarks. Peter Gabriel first entered the public consciousness as the enigmatic frontman of Genesis, a band which he co-founded in 1967 while still a student at Charterhouse School, where he found kindred spirits who wanted to make music instead of following the rigid academic paths expected of them. Genesis began as a songwriting collective. It was very heavily influenced by British pop and folk. But as the late 60s gave way to the early 70s, the band started pushing into progressive rock or prog rock with longer compositions, intricate arrangements, and lyrics that were more allegorical than literal. The original founding lineup of Genesis in 1967 was Peter Gabriel on lead vocals and flute, Tony Bates on keyboard, Mike Rutherford on bass guitar, Anthony Phillips on guitar, and Chris Stewart on drums. They did several early drummer changes, but Genesis finally stabilized with Phil Collins on drums in 1970 and Steve Hackett joining on guitar in 71. So by the time Peter,
I would like to interrupt here real quick, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to add additional. So everybody in the band except for Phil Collins is kind of upper class. Phil
yes, very
Collins
much
is
so.
not.
Correct.
Phil
Correct.
Collins is not, and he brought some of that with him
Hmm.
that just took them in an amazing direction.
Yes. Yes.
So please go, please continue.
Um, by the time Peter Gabriel departed in 1975, the lineup was Peter Gabriel, vocals and flute, Tony Banks on guitar, Mike Rutherford on bass guitar, Steve Hackett on guitar, and Phil Collins, drums and backing vocals. Let me tell you something about how amazing this lineup was. Peter Gabriel has one of the finest singing voices ever. His range is phenomenal. He's listed as a baritone, such as I
Mm-hmm.
am, um, but he can hit ranges I absolutely cannot hit. Um,
And he's got some gravel in his voice too,
yes,
which is really rare for having that kind of range.
oh yeah. And Phil Collins rivals Rush's Neil Peart and John Bonham in many discussions on the
Mm-hmm.
drums.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Banks ranks on many lists as one of the top 20 keyboardists of all time. Mike Rutherford ranked lower in many lists in the 30s, but he is widely considered one of the most influential bassists in prog rock. And as far as prog rock goes, he ranks up there with Geddy Lee. And Steve Hackett has shown in the top 10 in many lists for his guitar work and is considered a highly creative and influential guitarist in prog rock. This lineup was phenomenal.
Steve Hackett
Phenomenal.
and Robert Fripp are generally considered the prog rock big guys.
Yeah. Musically, Peter Gabriel was the voice of Genesis. He delivered poetic, often surreal lyrics over Tony Banks' lush keyboards, Mike Rutherford's bass work, Hackett's intricate guitar lines, and Phil Collins' tight drumming. If you want to see how good of a drummer Phil Collins is, go out on YouTube and look for the duet he does in the Way We Walk tour. He's an animal. He is an animal on those drums. Just phenomenal. It is tight. Um, this era of music produced some of the most acclaimed progressive rock of the 70s, including Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound, and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway was their most ambitious work that came in 1974. It was a sprawling double concept album. Peter Gabriel wrote most of the lyrics, weaving in a surreal story about Real, a Puerto Rican street kid in New York who goes on a fantastical journey. And it was hailed as a masterpiece, but it also highlighted tensions within the band. Peter Gabriel was known not only for his poetic lyrics, but for his theatrical stage costumes, from flower masks to bat wings to bizarre characters that captivated audience. And from the start, he was the most theatrical and visual daring member of the group, while the others preferred really focusing on the technical side of the music. Peter Gabriel transformed concerts into theatrical spectacles. He would don these elaborate costumes, like I said, a fox's head and a red dress for Foxtrot. Sometimes strange geometric masks. He told stories between songs and acted out the characters in the lyrics. He, his presence on stage turned Genesis concerts into something more performance art than just rock
They
shows.
were shows. They weren't just concerts.
Right.
They were shows.
By the mid 1970s, though, the pressures of fame, touring, and personal life began to weigh heavily on Peter Gabriel. His first child, Anna, was born prematurely and suffered health complications. So he stepped away to care for his family, which strained his relationship with the rest of the band, who wanted to keep pushing forward. And at the same time, he felt stifled creatively. He felt that the elaborate machinery that Genesis was, with its complex compositions and shared decision making, left very little room for the personal, experimental directions that he wanted to explore. So we turn to 1975, and this was the height of their success. At the conclusion of the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway tour, Peter Gabriel shocked fans and critics alike by leaving Genesis, and many in the industry thought his departure was career suicide. They thought, why walk away from the most successful prog rock band of the decade? But for Peter Gabriel, it was about freedom. He wanted artistic, personal, and creative freedom, and it was far from ending his career. The decision actually ended opening the door to one of the most groundbreaking solo runs in modern music history. His solo career not only redefined him as a musician, but as a pioneer of sound, visuals, and activism. As I said, I could go for 3 hours on this. Um, After he left Genesis, Peter Gabriel released a string of solo albums that pushed boundaries and redefined rock. So we're going to focus on his four best. In my
Wait, wait,
opinion,
wait, wait. And also say his first four albums were just called Peter Gabriel because he wanted them to be like magazines.
right. They since have names that have been given to them. Most people refer to them as those names. Some refer to them as Peter Gabriel 1, Peter Gabriel 2, Peter Gabriel 3, Peter Gabriel 4. Um, we're going to focus on what I consider his four best albums, and I'm going to present them in reverse order, starting with the best um, down to the fourth one. I think the first one I'm going to talk about, I think it's his masterpiece.
I would agree
Um,
with that.
and that's so, and we're going to work backwards. Our YouTube playlist for this episode will have the full tracks for every album, but I'm only
Oh,
focusing on
will
the.
it?
Oh,
I
I
don't.
thought you did.
No, no, no. I just put the songs in that you was like, hey, these are the songs we're going to talk about. Let's do that.
Fair enough. Then do that. And so as we talk about those, you can listen to the playlist. Back like when we did part three of Goth Rock, listen as I talk about them. Um, I think these four albums represent his best work, and the two concert I talk about as well. Um, Before I move to the albums, though, let me say this about the Peter Gabriel Genesis days and the Phil Collins Genesis days. The fans that loved what Peter Gabriel was doing and trying to do with Genesis are the ones that followed him after he left and stayed with him throughout his career. The storytelling and visuals were what drew them to Genesis and to Peter Gabriel. The people who love Genesis post Peter Gabriel generally do not like the stuff of Genesis before he left. They wanted more of the prog rock stuff and the focus on the music versus the storytelling and showmanship. There is rarely a middle ground of someone who likes both eras of Genesis. People like Peter Gabriel and people like Genesis. They like both, but there's rarely people who like the Peter Gabriel era and the Phil Collins era, except me.
This guy.
Yeah, I've been a fan
I'm
of
not sure
all.
how to, because sometimes it depending on how their screen ratio is set. So I just point in all directions.
Yeah,
This guy.
yeah. I mean, I have been a fan of all incantations of Genesis and Peter Gabriel. I'm even a fan of Calling All Stations, which was a Genesis album without Phil Collins. It's not as great as much as their work, but it's still good
Gary
stuff.
Sharon.
Yes, if I think that's right. I'd have to look it up to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
He who also worked with Van Halen, which was weird.
yes, I do believe that is correct. I apologize for not knowing that for sure, but I liked Calling All Stations. Um, I love both incantations of Genesis. I've listened to all of it, and I you will not find a playlist I have without a lot of Genesis and a lot of Peter Gabriel. And as I said, I listened to his discography from start to finish, and just so many times I would just have to stop down and go, "Fuck, this is good." Just great stuff. So anyway, let me press on. We're going to start with So, which came out in 1986. It was actually released in May of 1986. So was Peter Gabriel's first album to bear an actual title instead of just being self-titled like his previous four records, as we talked about. It climbed the tops of the charts in multiple countries and became his commercial breakthrough in the U.S., reaching number two on the Billboard 200. Critics
It was in the charts for like a year, year and a half,
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. Critics praised it as the perfect balance between accessibility and innovation. It also made Peter Gabriel an MTV era icon, not an easy feat for someone who came out in the 70s prog rock scene.
Yeah, you gotta remember too, Peter Gabriel was like what, like 35 when this came out? Almost 40?
1986, I'd have to do
36. Because he was
math.
born in 1950. Yeah,
Yeah, so
35,
he was 36 at
36.
the time. Yeah. Um, the track listing highlights that we have in the list are Red Rain, Sledgehammer, Don't Give Up, In Your Eyes, Big Time, and Mercy Street. So
Oh,
was
fucking Marcy
Peter
Street.
Gabriel's commercial breakthrough, and it remains his most iconic work. It took a blend of soul, pop, and world music into something both accessible and deeply artistic. Um, So was not just his most successful album, it was a cultural milestone of the 1980s. He worked with producer Daniel Lanois, who also collaborated with U2, and he created an album that blended multiple genres into a very seamless and modern sound. Um, the final polished production marked a departure from the more textures of his earlier work, but without sacrificing the depth. Um, Red
Nope.
Rain
He did not sacrifice the depth one iota. Mm.
and forgive me, I'm breaking from Zig's uh temp not tempo from how he does this. I will wait and ask you about the album as a whole as I get to the end of it. So
Okay.
I'm not going to ask you about each individual song. I'm just going to talk about them, then I'll get to that. Red Rain opens the album. And this Red Rain is a storm of emotion. It paints an apocalyptic imagery of both destruction and renewal. Great song. Sledgehammer became a worldwide hit. Worldwide. It was powered by funky horns and groundbreaking stop motion music video that defined the MTV era. It won 9 MTV Video Music Awards, which at the time was a record. Don't Give Up was a duet with Kate Bush. This one tried to capture the struggle of unemployment and perseverance during economic hardship. It's a beautiful song. Mercy Street is a very haunting tribute to poet Anne Sexton. It took themes of longing, vulnerability, and hidden pain. The more playful Big Time critiques consumerism and excess with tongue-in-cheek bravado. And then In Your Eyes, it perhaps is most enduring song. It closes the album with a powerful exploration of love and transcendence, combining Western pop with African rhythms. The emotional resonance of this was cemented in pop culture by Cameron Crowe's Say Anything in 1989. It was immortalized by John Cusack holding up a boombox and Say Anything. More on this song in a bit. But with So, Peter Gabriel proved that art and success did not have to be mutually exclusive. This was more than just an album of hits. So is a statement about hope, resilience, human connection, and artistic vision. It captured the sound of its time, but it remains timeless with songs that continue to resonate across generations. I cannot say enough about how brilliant this song is. What did you think about So?
So is one of the best songs of the 1980s.
Best albums?
Yeah, one of the best albums
Yeah.
of the 1980s. Did I say song? I mean,
yes, yeah.
Um, Don't Give Up has an emotional I have an emotional connection to that song because I had a home by the lakeside.
Mhm.
Um, I can't live there because I can't afford to live in that neighborhood anymore.
Mhm.
That's what that song is about. The forest is being that surrounded that lakeside is being taken over and turned into housing.
Mhm.
So when he sings that line, it did not affect me as much when I lived there as a child. Now, I can't listen to it without getting emotional and physical tears come to my eyes.
Most of the songs on So will bring a lot of emotion if you really open yourself up to the music. I mean, you've got Sledgehammer and excuse
Big
me, and
time.
Big Time that are both a lot more upbeat songs. The rest of them are very emotional songs.
Looking down on empty streets, all she can see are the bright stones of the snow,
Yep.
all the dreams made real. Yeah, Mercy Street plays in my head a lot. As does In Your Eyes. In Your Eyes is a beautiful song. It's a wonderful love song. Um, Having said that, Sledgehammer is incredible. It is not
It's
the
the
best
worst song
song.
on the album.
Yeah, it's the way. It's it. Big Time's the same. There are a couple other songs that I love on this album as well. Flying Birds. Oh my God.
Flying Birds, I believe, is on the remastered deluxe and not the original.
It was on the cassette because I
Okay.
got it back
Okay.
in the 80s.
Okay.
But
Maybe it
again,
was on that.
I got a lot of things in cassette, so generally I got a little extra just
Yeah.
because I got them on cassettes.
Yeah,
Um,
because I don't think Flying Birds was originally part of the original release. It may
of
have
the
been added
LP.
on the cassette. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But
yeah. Having said that, so is fucking incredible.
absolutely.
I mean, and I'm with Jeffrey. I think all his shit is great. So's the high watermark. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
I mean, I liked Us, but he didn't get there with Us, and unfortunately, um, for all of us, I think he got a lot of good albums in him, and again, I'm saying none of these albums are bad.
Hmm.
It's like the REM run;
Hmm.
they're just great.
Hmm.
Um, but So is so much better than the
Yeah,
other ones.
yeah,
The other ones kind of pale in comparison.
they do, and
Unfortunately.
that's interesting to say that because they're all
Uh-huh.
phenomenal. But
Hmm.
yes, so is heads above everything else.
And it's only like
Um,
9 songs.
it's 9 songs. Definitely listen to So because it's beautiful. The album is beautiful. Speaking of us, us is our next one in the list. You talk about the emotional level. Did it not reach that level? I will disagree with you that it did not, and I'll talk about that. Us was released in 1992, and it's really his most personal and introspective album. Really, it was released 7 years after So. It was shaped by the breakdown of his marriage and his immersion into psychotherapy. That's why this one is really emotional. So was very outward looking and celebratory in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. Us was very inward looking, and he wrestled with vulnerability, identity, and connection with us.
Yeah,
Um,
from what I understand, one of the songs is based around his relationship with his daughter
Correct.
and how
That
that
is
was
correct.
crumbling.
That is correct. The track listing highlights were Come Talk to Me, Love to Be Loved, Steam, Blood of Eden, Digging in the Dirt, and Secret World. And this was Peter Gabriel at his most vulnerable. It was influenced by the breakdown of his marriage, his time in therapy. Digging in the Dirt was him exploring self-reflection and emotional excavation. It's themes of therapy and confronting buried trauma, and it paired very dark lyrics with really kind of a menacing groove.
Hmm.
Um, Come Talk to Me, which background vocals were Sinead O'Connor. That actually opens the album, and it's a plea for communication, especially between Peter Gabriel and his estranged daughter. As you talked about, the song itself is very urgent and heartbreaking, and I'm going to be coming back to this song when we talk about the concerts. Um, Come Talk to Me is brilliant. Blood of Eden, it's where he meditates on intimacy, desire, and the painful fragility of relationships. Steam was his attempt to recreate the energy of Sledgehammer, and it's filled with sexual metaphors and funky bravado. Secret World ended the album on a very hopeful note, suggesting love is a place of refuge and truth. And again, so was all about external success. Us is about internal struggle. In this album, Peter Gabriel laid his soul to bear, and the result honestly, is one of the most emotionally resonant albums of his career. Uh, and so that's where I kind of disagree with you. He didn't have the emotion of so I think he absolutely did with us because with us, he was he was exposing himself and saying and just talking about his own vulnerabilities. And it wasn't as commercially as success as massive as so commercially massive as so, but it earned critical acclaim for his raw honesty and lush production. He worked again with Daniel Lanois for this to create an atmospheric soundscape, which was very rich with global instrumentation. Um, the companion to this was a visual project called Explora One, which was one of the earliest CD-ROM multimedia releases, which was reflecting Peter Gabriel's commitment to innovation. And the Secret World Live Tour, which we will talk about, that was built around this album, is now considered one of the greatest concert films ever made. What do you think about Us?
Again, I don't think there's a bad song on it.
Nope.
But I did not connect with Us the way I did with So or even um, Melt or Security. Those are the magazine albums.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did not connect with Us as much as I didn't connect with anything as much as I connected with So. But having said that, Digging in the Dirt is an incredible tune, and it was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
Love to Be Loved, Blood of Eden.
A lot of
My
Eden's beautiful.
my favorite song, my favorite song in this album though is Steam.
I love Steam. I think my favorite song uh is either Come Talk to Me or Secret World
Hmm.
are my two favorites on this album. And like I said, I'm different with you on that. I do have emotional connection to this album, a lot of it. Not as much as So is the number one. But this to me just is just a right at number two. Right at number two.
Again, and
Um,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just
no, no, it's
not
not.
even
Listen
close.
to it.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not. Well, you mentioned the two others. We're going to go on. Security is the next one, or Peter Gabriel 4, which was released in 1982. Um, it's often referred to as Security. When the album was released in 1982, it embraced digital sampling and experimental world beat textures. Peter Gabriel's use of the Fairlight CMI sampler allowed him to weave together world rhythms, found sounds, and electronic textures. And the result of this record made it feel primal yet futuristic. You know,
I have a stupid question.
uh-huh.
Okay, with his magazine albums, one, two, three, and four.
Mm-hmm.
I know why Car is called Car.
Mm-hmm.
I know why Scratch is called Scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I know why Melt is called Melt.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Security called Security? Again, Peter Gabriel didn't name any of this stuff. It's because of what's on the face, but I don't know why Security is called Security.
So security was it's named security because this was now him embracing the fact that he was on his own. He was no longer the guy that used to be with Genesis.
Okay,
He was now a massive songwriter and performance magician in his own right. Um, it this really talked about connection with people, connection with people in his lives, connection with cultures, and so security really fit the overall tone of this one.
okay.
The track listings we're going to talk about here are The Rhythm of the Heat, San Jacinto, I Have the Touch, Shock the Monkey, and Lay Your Hands on Me. Shock the Monkey became his first top 40 hit, and has a very surreal video. It's often misinterpreted that the song's about jealousy, but he's actually explained it's about primal fear and emotional response. Again, that security.
Because you got to shut
Um,
the monkey.
yes. I Have the Touch captures modern isolation and the craving for real connection in an increasingly technological world. Security.
Hmm.
San Jacinto, which is beautiful. It's a slow building meditation on the Native American identity and the clash of cultures, and it's one of his most atmospheric pieces. And Rhythm of the Heart was inspired by Carl Jung's experience with African drumming, channeling ritualistic intensity and loss of self. Again, security. Um, this was him fully stepping into his role as a pioneer sound design and cross-cultural fusion. This solidified him not just as a former prog rock man, which is what I talked about a minute ago. He's now at this point, he's no longer just Peter Gabriel, formerly of Genesis. He is now
Peter
Peter
Gabriel.
Gabriel. This solidified him also as an innovator and cultural bridge builder. He blurred the lines between rock, world music, and electronic soundscapes in this, and the adventurous production of this influenced countless artists in the decades that followed. What did you think about Security?
Again, none of these albums are bad.
Nope.
um, I think I like Melt a little bit better, just a skosh. Having said that, San Jacinto is wonderful, beautiful. Lay Your Hands on Me is wonderful and beautiful. Shock the Monkey, my at one time was my favorite Peter Gabriel song.
It's a great song. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, you mentioned Melt. That's going to be our next one on the list. And Melt and Security are 1A and 1B to me.
Hmm.
Melt could almost take over that 1A spot, but it's just a hair under Security. Um, Peter Gabriel 3 or Melt was released in 1980.
It's
And
called Melt because his half of his face is melting.
yes, yes. He'd already released two solo albums and was showing really flashes of brilliance. But the reason I think this one is just a hair less, this one also felt very transitional. This one was him transitioning into what he was going to become on Security and Beyond. Um, Melt is the moment where his solo identity truly crystallized, and then he went to the next level with Security. The track listings that I'm highlighting on this one: Intruder, No Self Control, Games Without Frontiers, Biko, and Family Snapshot. This was produced with Steve Lillywhite, with contributions from guitarist Robert Fripp from King Crimson and Kate Bush. This album pushed Peter Gabriel into darker, more experimental, and more political territory than ever before. And it also introduced a production innovation that would change rock music, the gated drum sound, which was created by engineer Hugh Padgham and Phil Collins during the session for Intruder. That explosive, echoing drum effect would become a hallmark of 80s rock.
Phil Collins used it, and Peter Gabriel used it for years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when you hear that, especially with the gated drums and the backward cymbal where they suck
Yep.
the sound out of the cymbal, both of them used it. They used it on this album. Phil Collins used it on 2 or 3 albums. Awesome.
Yep. Intruder was introduced to the world, or introduced the world to the gated drum sound, as I talked about. Intruder is very sinister and unsettling. It's sung from this perspective of a burglar who gets a twisted thrill from breaking into homes. It really sets the tone for the album's atmosphere of paranoia and menace. No Self-Control portrays obsession and compulsion. It has very jagged rhythms, which echo psychological unrest. Games Without Frontiers is a critique of nationalism and militarism by comparing them to children's games. The haunting refrain sung by Kate Bush, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but as we always heard it, she so
So
fucking
fucking
weird.
weird. That's not
And
what she sings. She's singing
and
it in French. She's
but I
singing
do have
Games Without Frontiers in French.
but I do have to say that you will now hear, if you listen to this song, you'll hear "She's So Fucking Weird" and you won't hear it as anything else.
No, you won't.
Um,
You're
but the,
welcome.
but this song became instantly recognizable, and the song became his first United Kingdom top 10 hit. Games Without Frontiers, to me, always sounded like it could fit perfectly in a post-apocalyptic thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be perfect for it.
Andre has a red flag.
Yeah.
Shings is blue. They Adolf builds
Um,
the bonfires and Rico plays with it.
yeah, I think it would
Ooh,
be perfect for that.
sinister. Yeah.
Um, Family Snapshot is one of his most chilling works. It's a song inspired by the attempted assassination of Governor George Wallace, as told from the assassin's perspective, which is very interesting because when I first heard it, I thought it was inspired by the JFK assassination, but it's not. It's George Wallace. This song begins very soft, almost very tender, before it explodes into violence. And it is a masterclass in musical storytelling. This is one of my favorites of his songs. I love Family Snapshot.
Family
I
snapshot.
I sing at the top of my lungs every time I hear Family Snapshot, thinking I can sing it along with him, and then he starts hitting those notes I can't hit. Biko, the last one we're going to talk about here, became his most powerful protest song, one of the most powerful protest songs ever written, honoring South African anti-apartheid activist Steve Biko. It closes out the album with a very mournful but defiant tribute to Steve Biko, who was killed by police in police custody in 1977. The song ends with a chant and a drum beat, which fade into silence, which was meant to symbolize
The eyes of the
tragedy and
world are watching
resilience.
now. The eyes of the world are watching now, watching now. And it's like, he wasn't real far off. There is a version of this song for Amnesty International show
Hmm.
where Sting is playing the bass and singing backup on it.
Hmm.
Oh my God.
Biko is powerful. It became a rallying cry for the anti-apartheid movement and one of Peter Gabriel's most important contributions to political music. Phenomenal song. Um, this album proved that Peter Gabriel wasn't just experimenting for experimentation for experimenting sake. He was making bold political, emotional statements. Melt was a turning point in his career. As I said earlier, as of this album, Gone was the alt rock prog rock frontman still tethered to Genesis. In its place was an artist who was unafraid to confront the darkest corners of human psychology, to experiment with sonic textures, and to use his platform for political activism. The gated drum effect pioneered here became one of the most influential songs of the decade, shaping artists from Phil Collins to say it with me, kids, you fucking too.
Oh yeah.
Um, more importantly, Biko signaled Peter Gabriel's transformation into a political artist and activist. It's a role he would carry forward with his work into Amnesty International, the creation of the WOMAD Festival. With Melt, Peter Gabriel proved he wasn't just surviving after Genesis, he was leading the charge into new artistic frontiers. Um, what did you think about Melt?
Exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said.
Ditto.
Ditto. Ditto and on Biko. The whole world is watching now.
Yeah,
And yeah, that song scared the shit out of Bofa.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
should have. Uh oh my God. Just oof. Yeah, this album. Again, for me, it is so melt us and security back and forth, and then like car
Hmm.
and scratch,
Hmm.
car and
Hmm.
scratcher, you know, however you want to do it, this
if
way or
if
that way.
if you listen to Car and Scratch, you're going to see where he starts his is experimenting into the new genre of music. You're going
Yeah,
to really
car is
see
called
his
car because he's sitting in a car and it's raining. Scratch
right.
is called scratch because he's making his hands like this, and there's some scratching motions above his hands.
And you'll see a lot of experimentation in those two. Um, Melt is where the experimentation was over. It was no longer an experiment, and
Hmm.
it was now a movement, and it
Yeah,
was now Peter Gabriel.
yeah,
And I don't say that lightly when I say it was now Peter Gabriel because it was phenomenal. One album I didn't include on here, but I want to mention is Shaking the Tree, 16 Golden Gates. This
yeah,
is a compilation or greatest hits album, if you will, which was released in 1990. This album was designed to be a career retrospective at the time and contained a collection of singles and hits. Most people will notice that In Your Eyes is not on this album, which I've always thought was weird.
In Your Eyes didn't become a hit
That's why.
until,
No, no,
yeah.
no, no, not even until. This is probably his most well-known song, but
Hmm.
shockingly, it never cracked the top 20 on the chart.
Mm-mm.
Mercy Street ranked above it on the charts.
In Your Eyes didn't even crack after Say Anything.
No, it never has.
It was
And
still indie. That's right, because they're playing it on the indie radio.
yeah. So
Okay.
so so it got omitted from the album. Other songs from So that charted higher made it onto this album, but In Your Eyes didn't, which I think is tragic because I think In Your Eyes is one of my absolute favorite songs. I love it. But if you listen to Shaking the Tree, that's another album from start to finish. You're gonna love it. It's got his best shit up to that time. But In Your
And
Eyes will not
Shaking the
be on it.
Tree, which is
Shaking
him
the Tree is
and
great.
Nissan Adore, which
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah. Um, by the 1990s, he had really evolved not just into a musician, but a multimedia visionary. His tours became immersive theatrical experience. experiences. They blended technology, symbolism, and storytelling. And so I'm going to talk about two of those, and it's his two most celebrated, Secret World Live and Growing Up Live. And these two showcased his vision better than anything else. I've seen him in concert four times. These were two of them. Secret World Live was 1993, and I didn't know this. I had to look it up. Production costs of concerts are typically kept a secret. I didn't know that. I had heard a rumor back in 1993 that the set alone, just the stage for this concert, cost well over $1 million, which today is over $2.5 million just for the set. Um, it was based on the Us album and filmed in Modena, Italy, directed by Francois Girard. This tour brought Us to life in really in ways no traditional concert could. He designed the stage around two symbolic platforms. There was a circle, which represented femininity, intuition, and the natural world, and there was a square, which represented masculinity, reason, and industrialization. Um, Throughout the concert, there's tension and harmony between these two spaces, and it became a metaphor for the album's themes of human connection and division. Um, Come Talk to Me from this album, uh, a red phone booth comes up from the bottom of the stage, and Peter Gabriel's inside, and he's talking on the phone as he's singing "Come to Me," and he steps out and he's dragging the phone cord, and the cord keeps dragging him back, and he's trying to drag this, and he's struggling to get across the stage, and it was a symbol of communication disconnection. It was very humorous, but also heartbreaking, which was really perfectly capturing the song's emotional plea of his estrangement with his daughter. It's beautiful. I have this. I have both of these on DVD, even though I don't have a DVD player anymore. Um, for
Get a
nominal
DVD
cost.
player. Just pick
Nah,
one up. They're
nah,
cheap.
nah, nah. I can probably purchase this streaming and just put it that way. Digging in the dirt. This was done with very shadowy visuals and harsh lighting, and was emphasizing the psychological struggle of self-examination. Throughout the song, he's hunched over, digging, literally as if he's digging through the layers of his own psyche. Um, Paula Cole, who was then an unknown American singer, she replaced Kate Bush on the tour, and her, oh my God, her powerhouse vocals on "Don't Give Up" made her a star. Made her a star.
Yeah, Paula
Um,
Cole sang the shit out of Don't Give Up,
yeah.
which is amazing because Kate Bush sang the fuck out of it too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. World was the closing number that pulled the whole show together. At this point, both the circle and the square platforms merged together. And then the band used the full stage. They were uniting masculine and feminine logic and intuition in one big climatic performance. And at the end, one by one, the band members all disappeared into a trap door on the stage until Peter Gabriel was there at the very end, still singing, and he slowly descended, and this dome comes down from the ceiling, or maybe it came up from around the stage. I don't remember which. But it concealed the stage and the lights went out. It was
Nice.
beautiful. It was beautiful.
Nice.
Now, World was the closing number, but of course there's always an encore.
Hmm.
Um, and if I recall correctly, there were two songs for the encore. This was 32 years ago. Fuck, I'm old. But I believe the first encore was "Here Comes the Flood," and it was beautiful. It was just Peter Gabriel on stage by himself at the piano, belting his ass off with this song. It's enough to bring a tear to your eye. It was beautiful. The entire band came out for "In Your Eyes," and it was spectacular. Um, Secret World Live was more than a tour. It was performance art. It explored identity, love, and reconciliation that really set a new standard for live music production. It was beautiful, beautiful. It was then followed up a decade later by Growing Up Live. Um, and You talk about a production for us. He came back with a vengeance for Growing Up Live.
Figure Out Loud. That's the one where they had like the bikes that
Yes,
ran around
yes,
the ceiling
yes. Um, uh,
that he's singing with his one of his daughter, not the daughter that he was having the trouble with. The younger daughter
correct,
was singing with him.
correct, correct. They toured behind Up, which came out in 2002, and this is when he envisioned a concert about the cycles of life: birth, growth, death, and renewal. Um,
Shocked a lot of people because it had been so long. He
yeah,
started shaving his head in the interim, so
he
people
did.
saw for the first time.
He did.
That's not Peter Gabriel. That's a bald guy.
He did. The stage itself was a giant rotating circle. It had moving platforms, aerial wires, and massive LED spheres suspended overhead. Um, it- this supported the Up album, but really drew from his entire career. Um, it not only did it have that rotating circular stage, robotic and LED spheres, but there was aerial acrobatics. Um, for the song "Growing Up," he performed much of the song inside a giant inflatable Zorb ball. Think about a squirrel ball rolling across the entire stage. It was wild. And this was him symbolizing both the confinement and playfulness of childhood. Growing Up is beautiful. Downside Up was performed with his daughter Melanie Gabriel, and the two sang this while suspended upside down with their, dangling towards the floor. And this wasn't just a stunt, but he used this as a metaphor for perspective and seeing the world differently. Signal to Noise is one of the most powerful moments from the show. There were visuals that paid tribute to the late Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who recorded with Gabriel. There was a combination of live band recorded vocals and haunting imagery, which created a very transcendent climax. Um, he did Salisbury Hill, and that's where he rode a bicycle around the stage. And this is where and this is where he wanted to remind audiences of his journey from leaving Genesis to forging his own path. That's what
Yeah, because I think
Salisbury Hill is about.
Salisbury Hill was like the first thing he did, right?
Correct. Correct. Um, like I said, Us was great. This just amped it to 11. This showed that he was a master storyteller on the stage and constantly reinventing what a rock show could be. Growing Up Live, it was an orchestration of sound, movement, and symbolism, and each performance element of this show, from the giant sphere to the Oriole choreography, it was tied to the album's exploration of human existence. It showed that Peter Gabriel was still pushing boundaries and still unafraid to reinvent what a concert could be.
As an
Um,
old man, too. And
yeah,
keep in mind, he is not a spring chicken when he was doing this.
no, no,
No, and he's hanging upside down. And the bicycle in question is not a bicycle like you think. It's running up the ceiling. It's on a track, and
yeah,
he's doing this and singing.
yeah. I mean, both of these tours revealed that Peter Gabriel was not just a songwriter, but a storyteller, and he used every tool available: sound, light, space, motion, create meaning. Um, Really, in an era where many concerts relied on spectacle for spectacle's sake, Peter Gabriel's shows were spectacle with a purpose. Secret World Live explored relationships, gender, and communication. Growing Up Live explored the human life cycles and our connection to each other. Um, Together, they remain two of the most innovative live productions in rock history. Really confirm Peter Gabriel not just as a musician, but a true multimedia visionary. Um, from his daring break from Genesis, which I said earlier was once considered career suicide, to the global triumph of So, the deeply personal journeys of Us and Melt, Peter Gabriel's continually proven that true artistry requires risk. He's never chosen the easy path. He often prefers to reinvent himself with every record and every performance. He has proven himself to be one of the most innovative and fearless artists of the modern era. His work challenges us to think, to feel, and to see beyond the surface of music into something much larger and experience. Uh, Decades after leaving Genesis, Peter Gabriel remains a figure of innovation, compassion, and creative courage. His voice is is not only urgent but haunting and human, and he continues to inspire musicians, activists, and audiences alike. In the end, Peter Gabriel's story is proof that sometimes the riskiest choices are the ones that define a legacy. He left Genesis a rock star, but he became something bigger and greater. He became a visionary who forever changed what music could mean. And that is my story of Peter Gabriel.
I liked that one. That was really nice. It doesn't hurt that I really, really liked the subject matter as well.
Well, and thank you for sticking with me through all that. I know that was long. Like I said, I had a hard time figuring out how I could do justice to Peter Gabriel and not take 3 hours to do it because I could have gone song by song through his entire
Yeah.
discography and completely nerded out over every single album.
Hmm.
The four I chose. I think are his best. I think you should listen to it. Whether you agree with the order I gave or the order Zig gave, those are his four best. And
Yeah,
the
I agree that they are his four best.
and the four that show his journey from Genesis to rock God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to rock God. Um, Listen to those. Watch those two concert videos if you can find them. Like I said, I have them on DVD. I need to find if they're streaming because I want to watch them again. Uh,
Uh,
I know for a fact I have seen the entire uh, Us concert on YouTube. Um, Not sure about so, but there's tons of videos out there. Watch, see what he is about, and see just the pure raw emotion that he puts into his music and the visions he put with it. Um, Peter Gabriel is by no, I do not say this lightly, and I am not overstating this. Peter Gabriel is a musical genius. He is an absolute musical genius. Um, you are only hurting yourself if you do not listen to some of his music and listen to the brilliance and raw emotion that he brings to it.
what is amazing about this is keeping in mind musically where Jeffrey came from and where I came from. We both hit upon Peter Gabriel from two different directions
Yeah, yeah,
because he was playing in both places.
yep,
That's what amazes me about Gabriel. It's like, and the thought that it's not even that he is so good, it's not even questioned as a how did he do that? Well, of course he did. It's
yeah.
yeah, of course he did.
You know, I will probably cover Genesis at some point as well, because Genesis is also a very good musical group. Um, they're just very different post Peter Gabriel. They focused more on the music, technology of music over production. Um, when I saw the way we
And
walk.
they wanted to get hits too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, they
let's
wanted to get hits. They
yeah.
wanted to produce music and get hit. When I saw the Way We Walk tour, it was a very simple set with all their instruments up there, them at their post, with
Hmm.
Phil at the microphone, Tony Bakes on the keyboard, Mike Rutherford over a guitar, I think it was Steve Hackett at the time, um, on the guitar, and
Daryl Sturmer playing drums.
yes,
Always Daryl
yes,
Sturmer. Because Phil
but they
Collins, Daryl Sturmer is the only guy he trusts.
yes, yes. But they had a second drum set up there because Phil Collins would go back there and play as well. Again, that's where you can get that drum duet. It's from the Way We Walk tour. But yeah, he can sing while playing drums too, which always fascinates me how you can play drums and sing at the same time.
Him and Don Henley,
Yeah,
and God damn it, hit those notes, the
yeah.
both of them.
Um, but yeah, I could spend I could spend hours and hours and hours on Peter Gabriel. Please listen to the music along as we talk about the episode, and just allow yourself to feel with the
Hmm.
songs. I think if you allow yourself to feel and just feel that raw emotion, I think you will enjoy the songs very much. So, there you go. That is my nerdery story for today.
Well, maybe we
Uh,
should step over to the murdery side of the house.
I think we should murder.
I've been waiting for him to do that all day. So today I got my information from the National Park Service, Wikipedia, and the U.S. Department of Labor. Today we're
Okay.
talking about the Battle of Blair Mountain.
Oh, okay.
The Battle of Blair Mountain was the largest labor uprising in United States history and is the largest armed uprising since the American Civil War. This conflict occurred in Logan County, West Virginia, as part of the Coal Wars, a series of early 20th century labor disputes in Appalachia. Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachians. For 5 days from late August to early September 1921, so a little over 100 years ago. Some 10,000 armed coal miners confronted 3,000 lawmen and strikebreakers called the Logan Defenders, who were backed by coal mine operators during the miners' attempt to unionize the southwestern West Virginia coal fields. That's a mouthful. Southwestern West Virginia coal fields. When tensions rose between workers and mine management, the battle ended after approximately 1 million rounds were fired. And the United States Army, represented by the West Virginia Army National Guard, led by McDowell County native William Eubanks, intervened by presidential order. The West Virginia mine wars culminated in a massive march of Union miners through the coal towns of southern counties. The participants ultimately sought to free miners in Mingo County who had been arrested and were being held in jail on charges of violating the martial law that the governor had imposed on the county. To get to Mingo, they first had to cross through Logan County. In late August 1921, the Union miners encamped in the town of Blair, just below Blair Mountain in Logan County. Blair Mountain forms a long ridge line that the miners had to cross in order to reach Mingo County. The first order of business was to deal with Don Chafin, the notorious sheriff of Logan County, whose main job was to protect the coal mine operators' interests. By the time the armed marchers arrived in Blair, Chafin had assembled his own army of civilian recruits that were protecting positions along the Blair Mountain ridgeline. It was on Blair Mountain where the two forces came face to face. On the night of August 30th, John Wilburn, a minister and part-time miner, led a group of 70 miners, including two of his sons, up the mountain. During a dawn patrol, Wilburn and four other men encountered three of Chafin's deputy sheriffs, including John Gore, an infamous mine guard in Logan County. In the gun battle that ensued, the miners shot and wounded Gore, who then shot and killed miner Eli Kemp. Wilburn responded by shooting Gore in the head, ensuring that he was dead. Double tap. This marked the beginning of the Battle of Blair Mountain. For the next 3 days, the two sides battled with Gatling guns, rifles, and other firearms along the ridge of Blair Mountain. During the second day of fighting, Chafin ordered his men to fly airplanes over the encamped marches and drop two nausea-inducing gas bombs and two bombs filled with gunpowder, nuts, and bolts. As historian James Green described it as the devil is here in these hills, West Virginia coal miners in their battle for freedom. Something extraordinary happened on Spruce Fork Ridge that day. American citizens were being subjected to aerial bombardment on their own soil. Since 1863, when West Virginia was born, coal mining had been central to its history, culture, and economy. Often overlooked, however, are the contributions made by black workers who also ventured down into the mines during and after the Civil War. Black workers migrated north to West Virginia, make sure I say that right, in search of opportunity, and burrowed deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains. Booker T. Washington was among them, following his stepfather after the war to West Virginia, where he found himself laboring as a coal miner at just 10 years old, a time he described as the unpleasant coal mine experience. The Washington family was the vanguard of black workers who migrated to the state in 1870. 17,980 black people lived there, and by 1920, the number had grown to 86,000. Across the nation, about 8% of coal miners were black in 1920. In West Virginia, they made, or 8% of coal miners were black in 1920. In West Virginia, they made up 20% of the industry's workforce, so much higher in West Virginia than other places. In the early 1900s were a time of drastic change for West Virginia's coal miners. Mine companies expected workers to do dangerous, sometimes deadly work, and in return paid poor wages and housed workers and their families in dilapidated and unsafe shacks. In many coal towns, black miners and their families faced segregation from their coal workers, living in different neighborhoods and attending separate churches and schools of the white coal workers. Wary of facing death each day and barely surviving, many coal miners began to organize and hoped in joining the United Mine Workers of America would better their working conditions and lives. Founded in 1890, the UMWA began as an integrated union, and Richard L. Davis, a black Ohio coal miner, was welcomed to attend the first UMWA convention. In fact, Davis would later serve for several years as the member of the union's National Executive Committee. As miners sought to join the UMWA, company owners who operated mines in West Virginia that were then all non-union often relied on hired guards, including private detective agencies, to root out organizers and stop efforts to unionize, sometimes by force. In 1920, after 3,000 miners in Mingo County voted to join the UMWA, mine owners fired them and evicted them from their company-owned homes. Tensions between mine owners and workers eventually turned violent. So, a little background. You've heard the expression "the company store," right? What that means is when you worked for these mine companies, they basically owned the town you lived in.
Right.
You lived in their housing, you shopped at their store, you were essentially belonged to them. It was essentially slavery because they didn't even pay you in money. They paid you in company scrip. Company scrip was not usable anywhere else but in that town.
Right.
Um, so
And real quick, you don't see company script now, but understand the oil industry is still a lot like this. The field, the workers who work in the field, who work on the wells,
uh-huh,
live on company property in company
uh-huh,
houses.
mm-hmm,
They get paid well. They get paid
yeah,
very well,
yeah,
but probably not well enough for the dangerous work that they do.
yeah,
But everything they do is around the oil company. They have restaurants and bars in the towns near where the oil field housing is that is almost entirely populated with people who work out in the fields.
yeah, and
Um,
generally owned by the companies.
Generally owned by the companies. And these people who work these oil fields, a lot of them are non-college educated, high
Mm-hmm,
school dropouts,
mm-hmm.
former felons,
Former
because
felons.
this is the work they can get that doesn't do the background checks and will hire them for quite a bit amount of money.
Six
But again,
figures.
but again, not for the work that they're doing because it is
Yeah.
extremely dangerous
Oh
work.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, it is not bad. It is not as bad as early 20th century coal mining, but it is still exceedingly dangerous.
yes,
Because you're basically dealing with industrial equipment and a very, very flammable
yes,
and caustic gases and liquids
yes.
spewing out of the ground.
And so really the only difference between that and what Zig's talking about is they don't pay them in company script, they pay them in actual dollars.
They pay
So
actual dollars, and quite a bit. And the reason that those guys get paid as well as they do is because of what happened after this period, because this turned the U.S. against them, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So 3,000 miners in Mingo County voted to join the UMWA. Um, between the mine wars between company mine guards and workers spread, sparking ugly and sometimes deadly confrontation in mining towns, like Matawan in West Virginia, often referred to as Bloody Mingo, and across America, among the largest was the Battle of Blair Mountain. So, a bunch of people were jailed in Mingo after the fight that was going on. The people going through Blair Mountain weren't actually going to Blair in Logan County. They were going to Mingo. They just had to cross this territory to get there. It was the only way to get there. Because again, a lot of these are in. The word is hollow. That's not what they call them up there. They're hollers. What they
Hollers.
are, yeah. What they are is glacial valleys that extend like fjords. It's the same thing. They're made the same way, made out of the same material. In Norway, where they're deep valleys, and there's no other way to get into because they're nice and long.
Slaughter Bartfast is very proud of his fjords.
Yes, he loves the fjords. He spent time in Appalachia too. Since the founding of the United Mine Workers in 1890, coal miners in Mingo County and its surrounding hired all non-union workers and strictly enforced employment contracts that included non-union membership on the grounds of immediate termination. As miners in the area lived almost exclusively in company towns, termination also meant eviction and starving. They were forced to live in tent colonies among the Tug Fork River. Rows of company houses were boarded up, and the miners and their families, including in one instance a woman with a newborn, were thrown out and had to live in tents on over board houses with no sides. In 1920, the UMW's new president, John Lewis, sought to finally end the 3 decades resistance to unionization in the area. He was under increased pressure to do so for both miners and elsewhere participating in the United Mine Workers coal strike of 1919, which happened everywhere. And keep in mind, 1919 wasn't like today where we run on oil. We were all running on coal. Not just us, but England, Germany, everybody fighting in the First World War was getting coal from us. Um, so, this unionization push included efforts from Frank Keeney, president of the local union district, and Mother Jones, very pivotal figure, who gave fiery speeches at the age of 83. And eyewitnesses stated that Mother Jones would come up to the head of the creek and call out for all the men that wanted to be let out of slavery to follow her. And I'm sorry, I'm getting real southern on this. As they did, scores of them, over 3,000 Mingo County miners, joined the union and were summarily fired. The coal companies then hired agents of the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency to evict the families and their former employees. In May of 1920, a dozen Baldwin Felts detectives, including Lee Felts, arrived in Matawan in Mingo County and connected with Lee's brother and Albert Felts. Albert and Lee were the brothers of Thomas Felts, the co-owner and director of the private detective agency. The Baldwin Felts agents were union busters who had a reputation for using violence against groups looking to organize. The agents were also responsible for the Ludlow Massacre of 1914 in Colorado. Okay, they started placing machine guns on roofs at this point in Mingo County. That afternoon, Albert and Lee, along with 11 other men, set out to the Stone Mountain Coal Company property. The first family that evicted was a woman and her children. The woman's husband was not home at the time. They forced them out at gunpoint and threw their belongings into the road under a light but steady rain. The miners who saw this were furious and sent word to the town. So this is all going in Mingo County. They're being shuttled out to Tug River. There was an altercation in Mingo County. These guys got arrested, and then they started doing guerrilla tactics and sabotage because they saw it as a war. It is at this point where the gentlemen who are going, and ladies who are going to Blair Mountain or going to Mingo, set out to go to Blair Mountain. Mary Harris Mother Jones called on the miners not to march into Logan and Mingo counties and set up the Union by force. She was accused by a bunch of losing her nerve, but she feared a bloodbath in the battle between the lightly armed Union forces and the more heavily armed Logan County deputies. What she didn't realize is people were coming in. and then got stopped at that ridge line of Blair Mountain. They set up defense positions. They had some World War One water-cooled machine guns. There's a very famous picture, which I've included, of a multicultural unions fighting these union busters, all with the red bandanas around their necks, which is where we get the word redneck from. Redneck does not mean someone who's been out in the sun all day. Redneck is a farmer or a miner who wears the red bandana in solidarity with these people. The first skirmishes occurred on the morning of August 25th. The bulk of the miners were still 15 miles away. The following day, President Warren G. Harding threatened to send in federal troops and an Army Martin MB-1 bombers. After a long meeting in Madison, the seat of Boone County, the miners were convinced to return home, but the struggle was far from over. After spending days assembling his private army, Sheriff Chafin would not be denied his battle to end Union attempts at organizing Logan County coal miners. Within hours of the Madison decisions, rumors abounded that Chafin's men had shot Union sympathizers in the town of Sharples, just north of Blair Mountain, and that families had been caught in crossfires during the skirmishes. Infuriated, the miners turned back towards Blair Mountain, many traveling in other stolen and commandeered trains. So they stole the trains and the guns and headed up. By August 29th, the battle was fully underway. Chafin's men, though outnumbered, had the advantage of higher positions and better weaponry. Private planes were hired to drop homemade bombs on the miners, a combination of poison gas and explosive bombs left over from World War I. Again, the poison was not a lethal poison. It was a poison to make you sick to your stomach. They were dropped at several locations near the town of Jeffrey, Sharples, and Blair. Now, keep in mind, as I said, they are in hollers, or these hollows, fjords, whatever you want to call them, right? Most gas sets to settle at a certain depth. The problem is when you throw it in a mountain, that depth is usually, or in a valley, that depth usually stays and it doesn't dissipate. It sits there. So
Yep.
these people are still fighting, puking and shitting themselves because they're still in this gas, and it does work. On orders from General Billy Mitchell, Army bombers from Maryland were also used for aerial surveillance. One Martin bomber crashed on its return flight, killing 4 of the 5 crew members. On August 30th, Morgan appointed Colonel William Eubanks of the West Virginia National Guards to command the government and volunteer forces confronting the miners. Sporadic gun battles continued for a week, with the miners at one time nearly breaking through to the town of Logan and their target destinations, the non-unionized Logan and Mingo counties to the south. Gatling guns and machine guns, so they used old Gatling guns too, which is a hand-cranked machine gun, were employed at both sides along with additional firepower. Chafin's forces consisted of 90 men from Bluefield, West Virginia, 40 from Huntington, West Virginia, and about 120 from the West Virginia State Police. 3 of Chafin's forces, 2 volunteers, and a deputy sheriff were killed, and 1 miner was fatally wounded. Federal troops arrived on September 2nd. The miners, many of whom were veterans themselves, were unwilling to fire on U.S. troops. Bill Blizzard passed the word for the miners to start heading home the following day. Miners, fearing jail and confiscation of their guns, found clever ways to hide the rifles and handguns in the woods before leaving Logan County. After the battle, 985 miners were indicted for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to murder, and treason against the state of West Virginia, though the majority were acquitted by sympathetic juries because they made them have them in the hollers. Others were imprisoned by up to 4 years, the last being paroled in 1925. At Blizzard's trial, the unexploded bomb was used as evidence of the government and company's brutality, but he was acquitted. Now, having said all that, you have machine gun nests, you have people dropping bombs. In 1921, in the state of West Virginia, this is Americans against Americans. This was the Second Civil War. However, because of an outcry, because there were people there reporting it, that's why we have so much information about it, and they couldn't cover it up. By 1926, all of the mines were unionized, and the lives for the miners got better, and they continued to be better well into the 20th century. Now, a lot of these mines have since closed because we don't need coal as much. But at the same time, a lot of them have also been converted into mushroom farms because it turns out coal mines are perfect for growing mushrooms in. Didn't know. Um, but there were several things that they had to do because in some cases, being a mine worker in 1920 in West Virginia was a death sentence. It would either kill you quick or kill you long term because of black lung. They forced them to do ventilation and safety checks and testing for gases and things like that. And these little towns went from these shanty towns to real cities, real little towns. Unfortunately, they're mostly gone now, but there was a progression in these areas towards better treatment for the people. And what these people didn't realize, these company owners, is that it was more profit for the company. Now, yes, they did occasionally maintain the company store because there were no other stores in these little towns for a long time. So they even made money there because instead of script, they just take in cash, right? So you used to have these little general stores that were owned by the company that still made a profit. So it was better for everybody, but nobody realized it. And it took groups of people shooting and dropping bombs on each other for us to all realize it. People went to prison. Some people died that day. But in a lot of cases, the sheriff didn't get reelected. You know what I mean? The judges didn't get reelected. The people running the mines were fired because this is a nightmare. And, you know, it sucks when you're like, hey, you guys want to buy coal from us? Oh, no, no, no. We're buying coal from the mine from 2 counties over because they don't fucking shoot their people or throw them out in the street. We don't want to be associated with that. And I think that today, if we had more of that idea, we'd be a lot happier. The power of the purse string. But that is about it for the Battle of Blair Mountain.
Awesome.
Um, and what's really great about that is it showed solidarity. At that point, the miners realized it wasn't black or white or northerner or southerner. It was up versus down. And I think that if we could keep that in mind, a lot of our problems might go away.
I
They're not
appreciate
real problems.
no. I appreciate you covering that.
Thank you.
As a huge fan of history, I love reading and learning about stuff like that. I I think there's not enough children and adults who truly appreciate how important it is to know your history, how important it is to know where we came from, how we got to where we are, and avoid the mistakes that were made along the line to prevent something like that from happening in the future. We see that from time to time. History repeats itself, and
Oh
history
yeah.
will continue to repeat itself if we don't learn from the lessons of the mistakes of the first time, and that's why history is so important. It's very important to know. Is it important to know the dates? No, not
Not really.
really. It's cool to me, it's cool to know the dates. I
Yeah.
love knowing the dates of when things happen, but you need to know the events. You need to know the events that happened, what led to the events, um, and move forward in a much better fashion. And history is how that teaches us. And I don't think there's enough appreciation about the background of history out there. So I appreciate hearing stuff like this. I can sit and listen to and talk about history for hours and hours and hours on end. I mean, a history lesson to me is a nerdery event because I can nerd out on history, especially World War II, because I'm
Mhm.
hugely fascinated with World War II. But thank you.
You know
I
why these guys
appreciate
were so tight? Because they dug coal together. Sorry.
just fine. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for the wife swap. I really
Sure.
appreciate it. I love doing these. Like I said, every 25 episodes. This is probably going to end up being one of my very favorites of the nerdery that I've done, and simply because, like I said, Peter Gabriel, um, hugely important to me. But I appreciate when you take over on the murder side of the house because I know it makes you nervous, but I appreciate you doing this every 25 episodes. I look forward to them. So thank you. That will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub. That's everything that we talk about here. You'll find links to this episode plus pictures, um, more about the episode, and you will also find the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yes, please check this out because I put in the YouTube link the songs that he talks about specifically. I can also put in the albums if you want.
You do as you want, Bubba.
All right.
Um,
But I would recommend anybody not only listen to our YouTube playlist, but go on and listen to those full albums too.
yes, 100%. Um, so yeah, so thank you for all your work on that. You'll also find the link to our merchandise page, or if you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from there. That, along with our patrons, you can find our Patreon link on our website. Our patrons, along with our purchasers of merchandise, do help with the costs that are associated with this show. It costs to keep us on the air for our uploads, for our storage, and everything that goes into bringing you this entertainment week in and week out. So we do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Please also don't forget something you can do completely for free is leave a 5-star review wherever you can. Please give us that 5-star plus a review. Let others know how you enjoy the show, how you appreciate the show. The internet is all about algorithms, and the more that you rate and comment, the more people will find our information. It's people just like you who have already rated us, which have made us number 2 on Good Pod, as number 2 in indie nerd culture. We have multiple categories that we are in the top 100 on. We have a few that are in the top 20, but we did reach number 2 in the indie nerd category. We are not ranked anywhere on true crime, but the true crime space is very big, and it doesn't
We'll get
shock
there.
me. We might get there eventually. I know that we have people that appreciate both sides of the show. They might appreciate one, they might appreciate the other, or they appreciate both. But do leave us ratings because, like I said, it does help with the algorithms and helps puts us in front of more people that may be looking for the topic we discuss. And so, finally, the last thing I will put on this amazing wife swap is Mr. Chuck. You can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
With that, I have been Jeffrey with your nerdery.
And I'm Zig with your murdery.
Cue the music.